Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So what I want to do in this video is to just run you through the process I typically go through to create a video or to do some video editing using OpenShot. The tool I'm using particularly is OpenShot Video Editor. It's a free tool that you can get off the internet. You can just Google it, OpenShot. OpenShot as a single word video editor. It's free. And so go ahead and download that. It's actually a very powerful software, even though it is free and supported by donations. Now, once you've downloaded it and installed it, I will just run through two things quickly before I actually start editing the video, and just so that your OpenShot will look exactly like mine when I start my editing. So first of all, come to Edit and Preferences. And here is like you want to set your defaults. Whenever you start up OpenShot, you want it to be so and so. So what are the defaults you want to pick? General. So under the general tab, you could set your language. You could decide what theme you want it to be. I like the humanity dark, so I'll leave it as humanity dark. A couple of other things we could set. Now, if you have Blender installed, you want to enter the location of Blender installed on your computer. If you have Inkscape installed, you also want to enter that here. That will be useful if you're interested in doing some advanced editing of text on your screen. We probably won't do too much of that today if we do any of it at all. So you could set that here. Preview, what do you want this to be? What do you want the your profile to be? So my default profile I use for this is 1080p, that's high definition 1080p, 25 frames per second, because cameras we're working with record with 25 frames per second. 30 frames per second is actually quite ideal, but I'll just work with 25 frames per second because that suits us well enough. We don't really have much action shots with lots of movements. But having said that, let me go ahead and change it to 30 frames per second, because ultimately we are changing our system in church and we will likely move to 30 frames per second or larger. Default audio sample rate, yours is probably 44,100. I set this as 48,000 to just have a slightly better audio. These are kind of an overkill. You're not likely to hear the difference between 48,000 and 96,000, but we'll keep it at 48,000. Okay, you could go to, there are other things you could set. Do you want it to auto save as you're working? How much cache do you want? You want a debug mode, but we won't worry about those. Performance is the next thing you want to check, particularly if you have a GPU, a graphics processing unit in your computer. If you do have one, then please select it over here because it will make things significantly faster. The GPU is made for this kind of work. I don't have a GPU, so mine is set to CPU, and yeah, things will run a little slower, particularly when exporting the video. Finally, you could come and take a look at the keyboard shortcuts. I won't use much of this for this particular recording, but there are several keyboard shortcuts I could use. I will probably just use Ctrl+C for copy, delete, maybe Ctrl+Z, and if I use anything else, I'll try to remember to mention it. So after making any change there, it will ask you to restart OpenShot for you to be able to for you to have those changes in OpenShot and work with them. So I'll go ahead, I've closed it, and I'll now just restart it. And this time when it restarts, I'll show you on the title bar. So if you come in here and look on the title bar, it now says 1080p HD, 1080p, 30 frames per second. Remember, I changed it to that. That is now our default, and that's what we work with. So we're almost ready to go. One last thing. The second thing I said I'll mention, first thing was preferences under edit. The second, go to view. Under views, select the advanced view. I prefer the advanced view because it gives me a lot of dexterity and it helps a lot to work. Particularly, in fact, I like the advanced view because it gives me this bar, the properties bar, and that's really what I'm interested in. So there are too many things going on right now, so I'll drag effects over, or maybe it should be actually faster to just drag project files over this. Yeah, that's faster. So that I now have project files, transitions, and effects all in one bucket. I typically don't use all of them at the same time, so that's fine. I'll come to this point, drag this a bit to the right, just to give me more real estate in here, and I'll drag this up again, just to give me more real estate, so I can see more of the tracks over here. The one thing that I wish OpenShot could do is somehow compress when there's reduce the height of these individual tracks. Well, maybe it can do it, but I don't know that it can do that as at present. By default, you have 5 tracks, but you can always increase the number of tracks. Right click here, add track above, add track below, so you can have as many tracks as you want. We'll talk more about tracks and you'll see me use tracks, but in the meantime, let's get on with the video we want to edit. So what I'll be working with, the video I'll be working on for this recording is the children church service for the children church service that we have for the 28th of June 2020. So I received these files a couple of minutes to hours ago, and these are the videos, these are the files we'll be working with. So in OpenShot, I have my project files. Notice project files are selected. I have transitions, I have effects, but I particularly want to use project files for now. And I come to my folder, and all the files I want to bring in, I'll simply drag them in here. I drag them in here, it brings them all into my project. So now I can use them in my projects. Sorry, I just want to quickly silence my phone. I have a Skype call. Okay, so I've brought in all these files that we use. A couple more files that I'll need for the project. I'll go to live service and front to and back. I'll also use those. I think I double clicked, my mistake. Okay, so I've also dragged those in here. So front to and back. So those are now in, these are all in my project files. Now what I typically do is to number them, because when I receive these files, I was told the order in which they will come. So I just numbered them so that it makes my work a whole lot easier. Okay, so I just numbered them and put them together. So I'll now drag this out of the way because we really don't need it anymore for now. And let's now work on this file. What I typically do is I place the audio on track 1. Now you can place it anywhere, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I right clicked on it, I selected rename, and I want to call it audio. It's good to name your tracks according to what you're doing with them, because that really makes it a whole lot more manageable, particularly when you come later to take a look at the project or to edit something, you know exactly where to go. So I'll drag this over here and place it down on the audio. So now I can show you a couple of things, and this is why I like the advanced view. You have this property window telling me the properties of this track that is selected. I know it is selected because the red band you have around this, not the track now, this particular clip. So I had, because of this red band you have around this clip, it tells me it is selected. If I drag a second clip down to my timeline, I'm placing it on a different track in this case, because usually I don't mix my audio and videos, not because it really matters that much, but it's good to separate things and keep things in separate windows. So if this is selected now, notice the red band is around it, then these properties are for that. To just illustrate that, notice that for this clip 1, it ends at 17.37. The duration is 17.37 seconds. If I click on this, on the other hand, duration is 109.37 seconds. Let me scroll down a little bit. Under position, this track starts from position 0. That's what 0.00 means. It starts from position 0. Whereas this starts from position, where is it? 109.37. Remember, that's the length of this clip, and I placed it just at the end of this clip here. By the way, this magnet over here is for snapping and clips together, and because it is enabled, that's why this snapped to the edge. So I could drag it away, but if I bring it close to this edge, it just snaps in place, and it helps to align things together. So it's a good idea often to keep it to keep the snapping tool enabled. Now you could do a lot of things. It's with the advanced editor, advanced view rather, you could do a lot of things with these properties. For example, you could decide where you want a clip to start. So for example, this is the entire clip. It's 17.37 seconds long. We checked that already. 17.37 seconds long. Now I could say no, I don't want to start from the very beginning. I want to start from, say, 2.5 seconds into the clip. Now, if I'm starting from 2.5 seconds, then it is no longer 17.37 long. Let me see. Have I? Oh, sorry. I clicked on the wrong thing. I typed that under time. Or actually, I meant to type that under start. 2.5. Okay, so 2.5. I don't know if you noticed that this got shorter when I did that. And if you now check, Duration is now 14.84. Notice it still ends at this where the clip ends, but then this is the duration of the clip. So I could decide, no, I don't want the clip to end at the end. I want to stop at say 15 seconds in. That the other parts are extraneous materials, they are not needed. Maybe the recording was left on for too long, or the recording started a little too early, ended a little too late. Then you could just trim the clip over here. So that's what we have done. We've actually more or less trimmed the clip. It's possible to come here and use this razor tool to trim clips, but I feel it's a whole lot easier to just do some things here, unless I want to split a clip into 2 or 3 or multiple pieces. Then I may decide to use the razor tool, but I'll do my clip and my division of clips into multiple pieces with a different tool. I could show that later. I'm not sure I'll do it in this video, but yeah. So I've just clicked on Ctrl Z, or I pressed Ctrl Z on my keyboard twice to make sure that I've taken the clip back to original. So this is the audio that will play behind the scenes while as the intro to the video. So what I want to do is, this is the image I want to place over it. I'll put it on track 4 in this particular case, because I want to use track 2 and track 3 for some special things. I'll talk about that a little later. So this image will be over. Okay, so what I want to do with track 2 and track 3. Track 2 I want to use to place some videos here. Track 3 I'll use to place some videos over here. This is a PNG file, portable network graphics file that I created with transparent regions here and here. So if I place something underneath it, let me just illustrate that. If I bring, for instance, this clip and I place it down here, now notice it shows underneath both of them. So the whole idea of having this on, and here you get to see what the tracks are. Track 4 is above track 3, track 3 is above track 2. So if I placed something underneath track 2, then you are not noticing track 6B. You can't see that in this image. In fact, let me just go ahead and move this out of the way. Now you can see track 3, but you can't see track 2. Now, if I move this out of the way as well, now you see what was underneath it. So track 3 layers on top of track 2, and track 4 layers on top of track 3. Every other track layers on top of the previous ones, and you can use this for a lot of neat things. So what I'm going to do is to place some videos in this window here, and I'll place some other videos in this window here. I'll do one with track 2 and the other with track 3. I'll just remove this from my timeline as of now, because I don't need them on my timeline just now. So next thing I want to do is to make this clip as long as the audio. How long was the audio? We could check that once again. 109.37. So this clip, I want it to end not at 10 seconds, but at 109.37. Enter, and now it's the same length as this clip. If I just move my playhead to this end, over about there, you see that they line up together. So that's perfectly fine. Now I may go ahead and rename this track as images, so that I know that all images I'll put on this track. So I'll rename this track main vid 1. I'll rename this other track here main vid 2. Track 5, for now I'm not sure I'll use track 5, so I'll just go ahead, right click on it, and delete that track. Again, I could always add a track later on if I need one, but so I'll just let that be. So we have our audio, we have our the image to go over the audio for the intro and ending. I'll come back to work on that, but let me go ahead and work on the main video itself. That's the various presentations. So I'll go ahead and play this first video so you see what it's like. Now, if you wanted to preview a video, you want to right click on it here and click on preview file. This region here is called your timeline, and that shows literally, if I go back to the very start, then if I click on play, if I export this video, this is how it is going to play. So I could click on play, and then it is now playing. Okay, so it just occurred to me that I don't think I'm bringing in the audio from the. Okay, so let me just give me a moment. let me try to bring in the audio from what I am playing so that you will be able to hear what I play on the yeah. So bring this in, and what I want to use is that. Okay, so hopefully once I play this now, you should be able to hear it. Okay, so I'm going to pause this recording and just work on that, and I'll get back to the recording. Okay, so I think now you should be able to hear the audio. Okay, good. So that is working, and what I want to do is to just go ahead and come over here and just play what this sounds like.
Praise the Lord, our God is good.
Now notice that she was silent for a while at the very start, and then if we come to the end of this and see how it transits, let me just click on play.
Praise the Lord.
So notice that sharp transition. We probably don't want to do that. So one thing I often do for this videos is you have a number of effects you can apply. So for example, for this intro, I'll go ahead and just right click on it, and I could notice that there are a number of things you could do with this. You could animate, you could rotate, layout, time, and co. What I want to use particularly is fade. At the start of the clip, I could fade in slowly, or I can fade in quickly. Or at the end, I could fade out slowly, fade out quickly, or I could just come to entire clip and click on fading out or fast, quickly or slowly as I want. So what I'm going to do is at the end of the clip, at the start of the clip, I'm going to fade in slowly, and at the end of the clip, I want to fade out quickly. And the idea is that, okay, something is about to happen, so I want to fade out quickly. Now for this other clip that came in, notice again she was silent for about a second. So it's something with what we could do. Now what I'm going to do is to click on this plus sign to zoom into the timeline so I can see things better. If you're using a computer, you could also pinch and zoom to get that done. Or if you're using a mouse with a center button, you could hold down Control on your keyboard and scroll the wheel up or down to zoom into the clip. So what I could do is now play this and see at what point in time did she start speaking. So she started speaking somewhere around this point. So that's 51. She started at 151.01, and the clip started at 149. So there's like one whole second where she's silent. So what I'll do is I'll come to this point and say, okay, don't start this clip at time 0, so I couldn't look weird where she's just smiling at the camera. Instead, we want to start this clip at time 1 second. So now if I play this,
praise the Lord.
Okay, then the second thing I'm going to do is I'll tell this to fade in at the start of the clip, fade in fast. So that now let me play it from the end of the intro.
Praise the Lord.
That looks a lot better than what we had originally. And also at the start of the previous recording, there was a slight jitter in the camera, but now it looks smooth and looks quite good. Now I'll come straight to the end of this clip and try to decide where do I need to end it.
Dollars for praise and worship.
So we see again, the clip goes beyond this. Now, by the way, this is a very good recording. This is like a beautiful recording. It's the kind of recording we like. You always like to have some lead at the end, at the start, and some lag at the end, so and some extra at the end, so that you can easily trim things down to your size. If the video had started and at the point where she was talking, then you can't put in any effect, for instance, fading in or fading out. So I'm going to drag this back and see this is around the point where she finished speaking. So let me chop off, let's see, where I want to take it off from. So what I'm going to do is I'll just trim it at this point, and I want to fade out. So let me trim it at this point. Now I could come here and say, okay, what is this time? Look at the time here, go and type it in here and say, okay, this is where I want it to end. Or since I've dragged this around and I've shown where I want it to end, I could just right click on this particular clip, go to slice, And what do I want to keep? I want to keep the left side. If I wanted to break it into two different clips, I'll click on keep both sides, but I want to just keep the left hand side. So you could throw away the right hand side, and that's what it has done. It has thrown away the right hand side. Then I'll right click, fade, end of clip, fade out fast. And now let's play this.
Praise and worship.
Okay, and that looks good. So that is the basics of editing. Now the next thing I should do is obviously bring in video 2. Now I'll go ahead and bring in video 2 because this might be quite interesting. Now when I'm putting clips together like this, I don't always necessarily let the next clip start immediately after the first clip. Sometimes I give a little time because it makes some sense. Sometimes when you're listening to it, it just makes some sense to have a little lag between one clip and the other, just a couple of milliseconds or a couple of, not up to a second in most cases. If necessary, I could make it up to a second, but this is probably just about good. Now let's see how it plays.
Praise the
Okay.
Lord. Shall we begin to worship the Lord?
So I hope you saw what went on over there, and now we need to combat this. So the person started recording with the camera in portrait mode, and then rotated the camera to around that point. Now rotated the camera, and so now this is a bit of work. So, and it's actually, if you want, let's say it's good practice actually for us here. So what I'm going to do is, what I'm going to have to do is that initially the video will be in portrait, and then when it gets to about here, okay, when it gets to this point, I will now start rotating it so that when it gets to this point, the video will no longer be portrait, but the video will now be landscape. In other words, I need to rotate this clip 90 degrees counterclockwise. So at this point, I want the video to be 90 degrees counterclockwise, but at this point, I still want it to be 0 degrees. I don't want to rotate at this point. So what I'll bring the cursor to this point, and then I'll go to rotation. Rotation is 90 degrees. I'll just type in exactly this value that is here. I'll type it in there. The reason is that I'm setting a marker at that point that, okay, I want this value to be definitely this value over here. So I've set that. Now I'll come to the point where the rotation ended, and then I'll set another marker there. And what do I want it to be there? If I'm rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise, I type in 0. So that, I'll subtract 90 degrees from this. Yeah, and that seems fine. So now I've rotated it counterclockwise, and let's play the video from the start. Let's see what it looks like.
Praise the Lord.
Get to the point of rotation. Notice that, and it just looks like an effect, whereas what we have done is actually rotate the video. Now this is, like I said, one of the powers you have inside of OpenShot, and it makes it beautiful to work with. Okay, good. So now we have that, but then we also see some things. This seems to be too large. It's cutting off heads of people and co, and we can't have the video exactly like this. So let me come back to the start of this video and see what it looks like. Now this is, because this is portrait, many times when the video comes in portrait, you have this problem. It ends up chopping off some things. So I'm going to have to scale down the videos a bit. So I'm going to have to scale down the videos a little bit. Now, to scale down the values, I could come in here, and I know from experience that working with 0.65 thereabouts will effectively work. I'll do it both on X and Y so that it doesn't squash the video in any particular way that isn't quite good. Okay, so this didn't seem to work well. So let me show you another thing you could do. You could click inside this place and drag to the left or to the right. So I'm going to click and drag to the left just to see what it's like. Okay, so we see dragging this way, you see that the actual video recording chopped off some part of the head. So there's not much we can do to compensate for that. We can't compensate for that in software. So I'll take it to about 0.58 and do that on both sides again so that the aspect ratio is correct. Let me go ahead and just play to see what this looks like. Good. So the good thing is also, because of the she didn't start speaking immediately, so we can chop off some parts of the intro, and I'm going to do that just now. So I'm going to cut this off so I could take note of this time and then now type in where I wanted to start from, or like we did in the last video. Let me just right click on this, slice, keep the right side, and now we'll play.
Praise the
Okay,
Lord.
good.
Shall
So this is kind of fine. Let me drag this towards the left in my timeline so I don't have so much time between the first clip and the next. So let's play this, see what this looks like.
praise the Lord.
Now remember I
Shall
scaled
begin to
down the
worship
video,
Lord.
so the entire video is scaled. So when it rotates, notice now it is too small. Now I need to scale it back up. Okay, so I need to scale it back up. So what I'm going to do is, again, at this point where I started rotating, at this point I'm going to go down to the scale and set a marker there that, okay, this scale of 0.58, work with it at this point. Notice that when I set a marker, you have that green symbol over there. So if I'm just scrolling through, I can tell where I set the marker. Blue, that's not where I set it, but green, that's where I set it. So if I wanted to change it, I could change those values. And then when I get to this point, I want it to be full, thereabout. I want it to be full. So let's just drag up. I feel I should go to 1, but I'm not entirely certain. Let me just see what happens if I drag this out. Yes, so I think 1 will be full. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click, just type in 1 there, 1 there. It seems to not have finished the rotation on this point. Let me just play this and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's probably the I'll guess it's the best we could do for this video, but well, maybe not necessarily the best, but at least that works for us right now. And notice how much it looks like it was an effect that one was doing, that the video editor was doing, whereas it's just compensating for some issues we had with the recording originally. Okay, good. So I'm just go ahead and I could go ahead and fade this in. But instead of fading in, let me just show you something else that does exist. Right click and go to animate. Start of the clip, just because at the start is where I want to do this. I could, now because of the way this video started, it will probably make some sense to, let me say edge to center. So I'm going to bring it down from the bottom and bring it to the center. So what this does, so I just clicked on it and I just put that in there and it will worry about many of the details. So the only concern I have is I don't know if it changed my scale. Okay, no, it didn't change the scale. So let me just play this, see what it's like. Let me play from the previous video. So I'll play.
Praise the Lord. Shall
Notice it
begin to
just
worship
slid
the
in
Lord.
the video from the bottom. Okay, so it's always a good idea to listen. It's not just a good idea, it's actually necessary to listen to make sure that what was said, nothing was cut off. So let's just listen to that.
Praise the Lord. Shall begin to worship the Lord.
Good, so nothing was cut off when with all the editing we did at the start. So I'll go ahead and just scroll to the end of this and we could, okay, remember I zoomed in here, so that's why I'm scrolling so much. I could zoom out so that I don't have to do all that scrolling. I just want to scroll towards the end, see what things are like at the end. Okay, so it ends just approximately as they finish. So I'll probably just go to fade and at the end fade out fast. I'll just leave that as is. I won't do any more work on that. So those are the first 2 clips in there, and I'll do that for the rest of the videos. I won't take your time and I won't record that part. I mean, I'll just do that off camera. But let me come to this. At least you've seen how some animations work. So let me come back and maybe re-emphasize what happened over here. Remember I used the phrase, I set some markers and co. What OpenShot does is that it interpolates between things so that if I took a particular video clip, and I said that, okay, for instance, let me take this video clip and I'll place it down here. Now this is underneath the front image. Okay, why are you showing? Okay, sorry, let me just play this.
Let everything praise the
Okay, that's what's going on because I faded this in. So obviously this cannot start from the very beginning. It has to start from sometime after the fade out has finished. The fade should take about 3 seconds or so. So I'll set this at about 3 seconds and that's where I'll start. So I'll start this video shortly after that. Now, if we had that there. Now notice I want to place it at this bottom left. I can't make it so large. We've used a tool already, which is called scale. And that means we can, and it makes sense, we can just use scale for this. So I'm going to scale this video down. How small should it be? Okay, well, let me scale it down to say point 3 and point 3. I usually use the X and Y, I do them the same, and so that the aspect ratio. Now we can't see it because it is so small, it is probably somewhere behind here, and we need to move it to this location. So let's go to location X. I want to move it to the left and then move this one down. Moving down, I think it's moving that way. Okay, so there you see your clip. Okay, so you could always just use this to decide, okay, is this good enough, is this not good enough? You can drag around and just see what is good. Now the scale we used was 0.3. Should we make it larger, should we make it smaller? 0.3 is probably good enough, but let's make it 0.33 so it fills the screen better. Okay, so that's fine, and I can just leave this as is. So I could leave this as is, and it will probably be fine, except that I'm not going to play this entire clip. What I want to have here and here are just highlights. In other words, I just want to play a portion of this clip, maybe a 5-second portion of it. So there are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are a total of 8 different clips I have here, and this intro has a length of I think it was 69 seconds. So if we had 69 seconds, we're using 3 seconds at the start to so that leaves us with 66 seconds. Let's say I take 1 second at the end. That leaves me with 65 seconds thereabout. 65 seconds, I have a total of 8 clips. I'm going to place 4 on this side, 4 on that side. I probably want to display each one for 15 seconds thereabout. Not all of them are up to 15 seconds long. I can have some portions that are dark. So maybe I'll display this for the total length of this particular clip is 17.34 seconds. So I can display 15 seconds out of it. Maybe not, maybe I don't want to, maybe I want to display like 12 seconds out of it. So let me not start from the very start of this clip. Let me start from, say, position. I know she hadn't started speaking until about 3. So let me start from position 4. And then if I display 12 seconds out of that, it means I'll stop at 16. And so we have that over here. So what I'll do is I'll place the odd clips on this and I'll place the even clips on that in that window. Let me zoom out just a little bit so we see this a little better. So now I have this clip here, and obviously I want to mute this. So right click on this, volume, entire clip level should be 0. So the volume of this clip should be 0 throughout, because I'm not playing this. I have another audio that is playing in the back end. I am not previewing the audio. I could decide to preview the audio maybe at a very low level, but I don't want to do that in this case. So I go ahead and play this, or let me start it from this. That has breath. Okay, so it just suddenly appeared. Maybe I don't want that. I could put an animation of sorts. I could make it maybe come from the bottom and now swiping, or I could fade it in, I could fade it out, as the case may be. So this one literally is just about one having fun with this. So I'll right click on this and I'll say entire clip, fade out, and make it slow. So it just fades out in and out slowly, since the clip is actually quite long in itself. So I've placed clip 1 there. Okay, turns out clip 3 is also has. So maybe I won't use all the odd clips because 1, 3, and 5 are the same person, and it will look kind of weird to just have one person on one window all the time. So I'll take 1. I'll probably take 4 next. 4 is long enough, so I'll start 4 at total. It ends at 62, so I may as well start 4. Okay, sorry, let me just leave that as is. I may as well start 4 at where? Let's take a random place, 20 or 22. If I'm taking 15 seconds out of that, then that will end at 37. So that ends at 37. So far we've used 30 seconds. Again, I could do the same thing. I could make things a little more interesting, but let me just, if you want, be a little lazy for this clip, for this recording at least. So I've used 1, I have used 4. I'll take 6 next. Maybe 6B. 6B is long enough. So I can start 6B from, if I want 10, and then end it at 25. And then there are 25 again. Same thing I'll do. Fade in entire clip, fade in and out slow. I shouldn't forget to volume entire clip level 0, same thing here, volume, entire clip 0. Okay, so I have that in, and the last one, so I've used 1, I've used 4, I have used 6. I'll use 9 over here, and that will be that. So once again, I'll start this at about, let's see, where does the audio end again? Oh, the audio still ends much longer than this, so I can take more. 15 times 4 is 60. Oh, so that's 6. How come I'm having something that's shorter? Or am I doing something wrong with the calculation? So I could make these clips actually longer than they are, or I could put some gaps in between them. Maybe I'll just put some gaps in between them, because if it's a preview, there's no point in showing so much of it. So I'll just let this be a little rough. I could come and fine tune this later off camera. Oh, my calculation was off. The audio is not 69 seconds. The audio is 1 minute and 40 something seconds. So that's what's going on. Okay, so I'll probably okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is to, I could undo, but then instead, let me lengthen the clips. Let me lengthen the clips I can lengthen at least, and then I'll worry about that. Okay, so for this clip, by the way, something I've not shown so far, I could just come to this end and drag it in instead of typing where I want it to be. If I want precision, that's where I type those things. But if I don't need precision, I don't need to type in that way. What is, okay, I don't need to type in that way. So what I'm going to try to do is to lengthen some of the clips. The first one was a relatively short clip, so I can't really lengthen that, but I can lengthen this other clip over here. Now, when I've lengthened this clip, notice I already applied fade to it before I lengthened it. Now, that is a cause for concern, or that's not, maybe I should use the word concern. That is something you should take note of. If you already applied an effect before you decide to change the length of a clip, particularly before you decide to lengthen a clip, then you need to come back and take that. Now, fading in and fading out has to do with the alpha. Okay, so that happens with alpha. So I want to find the points. This is where the first marker was set. Notice it's alpha is 1 over here. As I move to the right, notice the alpha starts decreasing, and it decreases up to the second marker where it gets to 0. Now, what I want is, I don't want it to actually go down to 0 here. Remember, it does linear interpolation in between. So what I'm going to do is just set this marker here as 1. Okay, so that now it will not fade in between. Notice alpha value is not changing. It won't fade in between. Now I can right click on this clip. If this length is good enough for me, I can right click on it and tell it to fade at the end, or I can do it manually if I want. So now a new marker has been set here to 1. So notice in between alpha isn't changing, but once I go beyond that marker, alpha starts going down until it gets down to 0. So 0 simply means it is completely transparent, whereas 1 means the image is opaque. So that's good information for you to know. I'll do the same thing to this clip over here. Let me as well put these clips together since I am lengthening them. This video I can lengthen it as well, so I'll lengthen it, and I need to come back here, and my alpha, oh, I got a bang on. So 1, so now it's no longer fading, and I'll go to the end of it and I'll fade it out at the end slowly. Then I'll take my third clip, put this in here. Have I applied fade to this yet? No, I've not applied fade. Volume, entire clip 0. How much of it do I still have? I can increase this length, and I'll stop it at this point. This is fine. Okay, no, it's starting from the start. I don't want it to start from the very beginning, so I will tell you to start. I could get it to start from the very beginning, but in case he didn't start speaking immediately, I don't want to have to worry about that for now. So this is the entire length. I don't use the entire length. Let's pick it here. Right click, fade in and out slowly. Good. Now, the only other things that are left to do is like I did for this clip where I placed it in here. I need to place these other ones over there. Now, how do I place them in? This is quite important. Remember that if the cursor is at this point, then typing anything here sets a marker and tells the software what you want the value to be at this point. It doesn't tell it what should be what should be the value at the start, what should be the value at the end. It tells you what should be the value at this point in particular. Now, one of the things you realize is that it does interpolation so that if I specify that something should be, if I specify, for instance, that it should be at position 1 at this point, and I come here and I say it should be at position 2, then in between it is going to make it 1.01, 1.02, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 until it gets to position 2 at this particular point as I set it. That's what it does. Now, if I set a marker here, I must make sure to select the clip. If I set, let me come to this point where the clip is particularly gets completely opaque after the fade in has finished. If I come to this point, I can set again. I could come over here. Since I'm bringing it down to this bottom left, let's check what were the values you had for position minus 0.32 and 0.32. I'll just apply those same two values over here. Double click minus 0.32 and then 0.32. So hopefully that has centered the clip, and now I want to scale it down so that it shows. I could use the same value I used in the previous one. I could just scale each one differently if I wanted. So 0.41 seems to work well for this clip. 0.41, and that is that. Now, if I scroll to the left, you want to look at these values I set at this point. Look at what they look like to the left when I scroll to the left. Notice that apparently they didn't start actually from that point exactly, but then it works for us, it's good enough, and so I won't worry about that. Okay, I won't worry about that, and that will be that. So I'll go ahead and do that for all the other videos, for all the other videos, and I'll just go ahead and finish this editing out. So I think with this video, it's longer than I thought it would be, but it serves as a basic introduction to what I do with video editing. Thank you.